Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about something that I think a lot of people are interested in, and that's eco-friendly notebooks. We're going to be looking at this really fascinating article by the CEO of Lion Paper Products. He actually completely overhauled his company's entire sourcing to be totally sustainable.
Oh, wow.
But he managed to do it without, sacrificing the quality of the product and without increasing costs, which
Yeah,
is
that's impressive.
it's incredible.
Especially because I think a lot of people, when they think of eco-friendly products, they assume, oh, it's going to be more expensive or maybe the quality's not going to be quite as good.
Right.
But he's kind of proving that you can have it all.
Exactly. And that's what I love about this article is it's super practical, and I think it's going to be really useful for anyone listening, whether you're a business owner who's like, okay, I need to figure out how to source these products sustainably, or if you're just someone who's, curious about the whole process of how things are made and, where your stuff comes from.
Yeah, and I think it's really empowering as a consumer to understand, what goes into making the products that we use every day
Totally.
and to be able to make informed choices about the brands that we support.
Okay, so the CEO starts off by sharing this major wake-up call that he had. So Lion Paper Products accidentally used materials that weren't recycled or FSC certified for a batch of journals, and people were not happy.
Oh, I bet.
Customers were really upset, and it caused this huge backlash.
Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of shows how much more aware consumers are about sustainability these days.
Totally.
You can't just, slap a green label on something and expect people to believe it.
Right.
They're really scrutinizing companies' practices.
Exactly. And this article actually mentioned that over 60% of consumers are willing to pay more for products that are eco-friendly.
Wow, that's a significant number.
I know it's huge.
So it's not just about avoiding bad press anymore. There's a real financial incentive for businesses to go green.
And it wasn't all doom and gloom for Lion Paper Products after that mishap, so they actually launched a line of eco-friendly planners. And guess what? Their sales jumped by 20%.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty compelling evidence that sustainability can actually be good for business.
Yeah, it's not just about, doing the right thing. It can also be a smart business move.
Totally.
And it kind of creates this win-win scenario where you're benefiting the planet and also improving your bottom line.
Okay, so how do we actually find these amazing eco-friendly suppliers? The CEO actually lays out this step-by-step process, and the first step is all about, figuring out what you need.
Right.
It might seem obvious, but it's actually really important.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all the excitement of finding new products and sustainable options, but you really need to have a clear understanding of your priorities from the get-go.
Yeah, what level of quality are you looking for? What are your non-negotiables when it comes to sustainability? Do you need any specific customization?
Exactly. You need to think about all of those things up front to avoid problems later on.
And the CEO actually recommends making a checklist, which I love. It's such a simple but effective way to stay organized.
Oh, yeah, checklists are lifesavers.
I know, right? So checklist in hand, the next step is where things get really interesting. It's time to vet those suppliers.
Right, because not all suppliers are created equal.
Exactly. And with all the greenwashing out there these days, it's hard to know who's actually walking the walk.
Yeah, you really need to go beyond those surface-level claims.
So the CEO really stresses the importance of things like certifications, like FSC, ISO 9001, all those environmental credentials.
Those are really important because they basically have a trusted third party vouching for the supplier's practices.
Right.
So it's not just the supplier saying, oh yeah, we're eco-friendly. They actually have to meet certain standards.
And it goes even deeper than that. So the CEO talks about the importance of factory audits.
Oh, wow.
He actually went and visited a supplier's factory in Cambodia himself.
That's dedicated.
I know, right? And he said it was so valuable to actually see things firsthand. Or if you can't do it personally, you can always hire a trusted auditor.
Right, because then you're not just relying on paperwork or marketing materials. You're actually getting a real sense of how the company operates.
And another tip from the CEO, don't settle for just one sample. He learned the hard way that there to be variations between batches, so requesting multiple samples is really important.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's all about minimizing risk and making sure that the quality and sustainability are consistent.
Okay, so we've got our checklist. We're checking those certifications. We're getting multiple samples. What's next?
Now, this is where technology comes in, and I'm not just talking about the latest gadgets.
Oh,
We're talking about tech that can make sourcing more transparent and efficient.
interesting.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
There are platforms like SAP IBA or TradeGecko that allow you to track your orders in real time.
Wow.
It's like having a GPS tracker on your notebooks.
That's incredible.
You can literally follow their journey from the factory floor all the way to your doorstep.
So you know exactly where your products are at all times.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And it doesn't stop there. The CEO also talks about the power of data analytics in sourcing.
Oh, interesting.
So we live in a data-driven world, and by analyzing historical data, you can actually predict demand, more accurately avoid overstocking, and reduce waste.
So it's all about being proactive and using the information you have to your advantage.
Exactly. And speaking of proactive, let's talk about automated alerts. These can be lifesavers when it comes to managing your supply chain.
Okay, how so?
Imagine getting instant notifications if there's a delay in your shipment or if a quality issue arises.
Oh, that would be so helpful.
Right?
Instead of just, waiting and wondering what's going on,
Totally.
you can address those issues quickly and proactively.
Exactly. It's all about staying informed and in control.
I love that.
Me too.
Welcome back to our deep dive on sourcing eco-friendly notebooks.
Now we're getting into the really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig deeper into this.
Me too. So we're picking up right where we left off, talking about how technology can really transform the whole process of ethical sourcing. But let's talk about the notebooks themselves. Like, what should we be looking for in terms of eco-friendly paper?
Right. Well, I think a lot of people immediately jump to recycled paper,
Yeah,
which makes sense. Reuse, recycle.
totally. And the article actually mentions that recycled paper can sometimes even be cheaper than virgin paper.
Yeah, that's always a nice surprise.
It is.
It's not always the case, but it definitely challenges that assumption that going green always means, spending more.
Right. It's not always a trade-off.
Exactly. And sometimes those cost savings come from government incentives or economies of scale in the recycling process.
Oh, interesting. So it's worth looking into those details.
Definitely.
Okay, so recycled paper is a good option, but the CEO also talks about FSC certified paper. And for those who aren't familiar with that acronym,
FSC stands for the Forest Stewardship Council.
right, and they have like super strict standards for responsible forest management.
Yeah, it's not just about planting a tree for everyone that's cut down. It's about ensuring that the entire ecosystem is being managed sustainably.
So it's not just about the environment either. It's about the people and communities who rely on those forests.
Exactly. It's about the big picture.
And these certifications aren't just limited to paper. You'll often see ISO 14001 mentioned as well.
Right. That's becoming a really important standard across industries.
I've seen it, but I have to admit, I don't really know what it means.
It basically refers to a company's environmental management system.
Okay.
So it's a way to ensure that they're not just focusing on one aspect of sustainability, like using recycled paper, but that they have a system in place to manage their entire environmental footprint.
Oh, I see. So it's more holistic.
Exactly.
They're thinking about all of it.
And it's not just good for the planet, it can actually be good for business, too.
How so?
Well, these certifications can be a powerful marketing tool.
Oh, right, because it shows that you're serious about sustainability.
Exactly. Consumers are looking for those signals.
So it's like a badge of honor.
Yeah, and it can really start you apart from your competitors.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about vetting suppliers and looking at certifications, but I want to go back to something the CEO emphasized earlier, which is the importance of building strong relationships with your suppliers.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
It's not just about, finding the cheapest option or ticking boxes on a checklist.
It's about finding partners you can trust and work with long term.
Right, because ideally you want to build a relationship that's mutually beneficial.
Exactly, and the CEO actually shares this great example in the article. So one of his suppliers suggested a design change for their custom planners.
Really?
And it ended up boosting customer satisfaction by 25%.
Wow, that's incredible.
I know, it's amazing.
So it really highlights the power of collaboration.
Right, when you have those open lines of communication and you're both invested in each other's success, you can achieve some really great things.
A win-win.
Exactly, and those strong relationships can also help you navigate challenges.
Like what?
Well, imagine there's a sudden surge in demand or disruption in the supply chain. Having a trusted partner by your side can make all the difference.
That's a good point. It's about having that support system.
Yeah, you're not in it alone.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what we've learned so far.
Okay.
When you're sourcing eco-friendly notebooks, or really any product for that matter, you need to be clear on your needs. You need to do your due diligence when vetting suppliers. You need to leverage technology to streamline the process. And you need to prioritize those long-term collaborative relationships. So it's a lot to think about.
It is, but it's important.
It is, but hopefully this deep dive is giving everyone the tools and the knowledge to make those informed decisions.
And don't forget about the materials themselves.
Right.
Look for those recycled or FSC certified options and check for those environmental certifications like ISO 14001.
It's all about aligning your choices with your values. And remember, this is an ongoing journey. The world of sourcing is constantly changing. So how do you stay ahead of the curve?
Well, the CEO emphasizes that continuous learning is key.
Yeah, like how do you actually do that?
Well, stay updated on industry trends by reading reports, following Google Trends, subscribing to trained publications. It's like being a detective, always looking for clues about what's next.
That's a great analogy. And it's not just about external trends, right? You also have to listen to your customers,
Oh,
like
absolutely.
what they're saying, what they're asking for.
Yeah, the CEO actually is an example of how they received feedback that their custom journals needed more flexible page layouts.
Okay.
So they listened, they made adjustments, and they saw a 30% increase in repeat orders.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
I know, it's amazing how such a simple change can have such a big impact.
It just shows that
Yeah.
feedback is so valuable.
Right, your customers are telling you what they want. You just have to be willing to listen.
And speaking of listening, were there any other tips from the CEO about staying ahead of the game?
Well, he talks about the importance of being adaptable and willing to experiment.
Right, because the sourcing landscape is constantly changing.
Exactly. So you need to be flexible and willing to try new
It's
things.
not about finding the perfect solution and just sticking with it forever.
It's about embracing change and being open to new possibilities.
And that brings us to a really important point that the CEO makes. He talks about how every decision you make in the sourcing process has a ripple effect.
Oh, that's deep.
It's true.
So it's not just about the price tag.
It's about the ethical and environmental implications of our choices.
Right. It's about recognizing that we have the power to make a difference with every purchase we make.
And those choices, when multiplied by millions of consumers, can have a huge impact on the world.
It's inspiring, isn't it?
It is. It's empowering.
It makes you feel like you can actually make a difference.
Well, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. But there's still more to explore.
Yes, in part 3, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of contract negotiation, and we'll talk about how to leverage data to optimize your orders.
So stay tuned as we wrap up this fascinating journey into the world of eco-friendly notebook sourcing. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into finding and sourcing the perfect eco-friendly notebooks.
I feel like we've covered so much already.
I know, right? From, those first steps of just figuring out what you need all the way to harnessing data. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I think there's this one question that's probably on a lot of people's minds.
What's that?
Does going green actually pay off in the long run? We've talked about the potential cost savings with recycled materials and, the marketing benefits of sustainability. But is it all hype? Or is there real substance to those claims?
Yeah, that's the big question. And the CEO of Lion Paper Products, he's actually adamant that sustainability isn't just good for the planet, it's good for business.
So it's a win-win.
Exactly. He argues that you can actually see significant cost savings over time.
Okay, so we talked about how recycled paper or FSC certified paper can sometimes be less expensive than virgin paper. But what are some of the other ways that going green can actually save you money?
Well, one big area is waste reduction.
Okay.
Think about all the waste that's generated in a typical supply chain. You've got packaging materials, offcuts from production products that get damaged in transit. It really adds up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And by streamlining your operations and sourcing responsibly, you can cut down on that waste, which often translates into lower disposal costs. And then there's energy consumption.
Right.
If you're using less energy to manufacture and transport your products, that's going to show up in your energy bills.
So it's not just about the materials themselves.
Exactly. It's about the entire process.
And it goes beyond just direct cost too, right?
Absolutely. When you're operating more sustainably, you're minimizing your environmental impact, which can actually help you avoid potential fines or penalties down the road.
That's a good point.
And it can even improve your relationships with regulators and local communities.
So it's about building a more responsible and sustainable business overall.
Exactly. It's not just about the numbers on a spreadsheet.
And let's not forget about that potential marketing boost we were talking about.
Right. Consumers are becoming much more discerning about the brands they support.
Yeah, they want to know that their products are ethically and sustainably sourced.
Exactly. And when you can demonstrate that commitment to sustainability, it builds trust.
So it's not just about attracting new customers, it's about building loyalty.
Exactly. You're creating a community of like-minded people who believe in what you're doing.
Okay, so while we're on the topic of making a positive impact, I want to go back to something we talked about a little bit earlier, which is contracts.
Okay.
We talked about how important it is to be super specific in those contracts to, avoid surprises down the line. But do you have any practical tips for actually negotiating those contracts?
Well, the CEO, he emphasizes the importance of open and honest communication. Don't be afraid to ask questions, clarify anything that seems unclear, and make sure you're on the same page with your supplier.
Like from the very beginning.
Exactly. And when it comes to costs, don't be afraid to negotiate. Explore volume discounts, flexible payment terms. There's often more wiggle room than you might think.
And it never hurts to, get quotes from multiple suppliers.
Exactly. Shop around, make sure you're getting a fair deal.
So you mentioned something earlier about using data to improve your sourcing. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so by analyzing your historical sales, data market trends, and even things like seasonality, you can actually get much better at predicting demand,
Okay.
which can help you avoid overstocking, reduce waste, and save money.
It's like having a crystal ball.
Kind of, and there are tons of tools and technologies that can help you do this.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, like inventory management software that can track your stock levels, generate reports, and even automate your ordering processes.
Wow, so it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it.
Exactly, and it frees up your time to focus on other parts of your business.
So as we're getting ready to wrap up this whole deep dive into the world of eco-friendly notebooks, what are some key takeaways that our listeners can walk away with?
Well, I think the biggest one is that sustainability isn't just some passing trend. It's a fundamental shift in how businesses operate. And it's not just about doing good, it's about doing well.
Yeah.
When you embrace sustainability, you can really enhance your brand, attract new customers, reduce costs, and contribute to a healthier planet.
And remember, it's a journey. Stay informed, stay adaptable, build those strong relationships with your suppliers, and never stop learning.
And for anyone who's feeling inspired to keep exploring, I'd recommend taking a look at the sustainability practices of some of your favorite brands. You might be surprised at what you find.
That's a great idea. Or, you know what else I think would be really interesting is to look into the history of paper production. It's actually a really fascinating story that spans, centuries and different cultures.
That's a cool idea. I might have to do that myself.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this deep dive. I hope everyone enjoyed this exploration of eco-friendly notebook sourcing and that you all feel empowered to make more informed and sustainable choices.
Remember, every purchase is a vote, so vote wisely and keep diving deep.